The rain fell hard on New Haven Colony that evening. Teo stood at his kitchen window watching water stream down the glass. His daughter Hannah sat at the table behind him, pushing food around her plate. She hadn't eaten much again. He sighed and turned away from the window. "Hannah, please eat your dinner," he said quietly. The little girl looked up at him with sad eyes. "I'm not hungry, Dad." Teo felt his chest tighten. 2 years had passed since her mother died, and still every day felt heavy. He worked long hours at the colony's engineering center, trying to keep the struggling settlement running. At night, he came home tired to a daughter who needed more than he knew how to give. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Teo opened it to find Yuna, the colony administrator, standing in the rain. Beside her stood the strangest being he had ever seen. The creature was tall and thin, covered in what looked like pale blue crystal. Its skin seemed to shimmer and shift, catching the light from his doorway. It had no hair, and its eyes were solid white orbs that glowed faintly. The being wore a thick environmental suit that hummed softly. "Teo, I'm sorry to bother you so late," Yuna said, water dripping from her coat. "This is Valira." Her ship was damaged in the storm. "She needs a place to stay." Teo stared at the alien. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with me?" Yuna shifted uncomfortably. "You know our housing situation. Every building is full. Families are doubled up already. But you have that extra room. The cold storage room you converted from your wife's old workshop." The words hit Teo like a punch. That room. He had sealed it off after his wife died, unable to face her tools and projects. Later, when the colony needed more storage for temperature-sensitive equipment, he had let them use it. The room stayed locked. He never went in. "That room is freezing cold," Teo said. "The temperature controls are set to near 0. "Perfect," Yuna replied. "Valira's species needs cold. She can't survive in normal human temperatures for long. Look at her suit. It's barely keeping her cool enough." Teo looked at the alien again. Even through the suit, he could see condensation forming. The creature looked uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot. Valira spoke then, her voice coming through a translator device on her collar. The sound was strange, like wind through ice caves. "I have money. I will pay rent. I need only the cold room and occasional access to water. I will not disturb your life." "Please, Teo," Yuna added. "It's just temporary. Until her ship is repaired. Maybe 2 months." Teo wanted to say no. He wanted to close the door and keep his small, sad life exactly as it was. But he looked at the alien's uncomfortable stance, at Yuna's pleading expression. He thought about how the colony had helped him when his wife died, how they had watched Hannah while he fell apart. "Fine," he said finally. 2 months. But I have rules. Stay in your room. Don't touch anything that isn't yours. And stay away from my daughter." Behind him, Hannah had appeared in the hallway, peeking around the corner. Her eyes were wide as she stared at Valira. The alien turned those glowing white eyes toward the child. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Valira bowed her head slightly. "I understand. Thank you for your kindness." Yuna smiled with relief. "I'll help her get settled. The room is through here, right?" Teo nodded and stepped aside. Yuna led Valira through the house toward the sealed door at the end of the hall. Teo had to find the key, which he had buried in a drawer years ago. His hand shook slightly as he unlocked the door. Cold air rushed out. The room beyond was dark and frost-covered. Teo saw his wife's old workbench in the corner, covered with ice crystals. His throat felt tight. But Valira stepped into the cold, and her whole body seemed to relax. The tension left her shoulders. Her crystalline skin began to glow with a soft blue light. She removed her environmental suit and breathed deeply. "This is good," she said, her voice clearer now without the suit muffling it. "This will work. Thank you." Yuna helped carry in a few bags of Valira's belongings. The alien had very little. A sleeping mat, some containers of what looked like frozen food, and several data devices. "The bathroom is down the hall," Yuna explained. "Kitchen is shared. Try to coordinate time so the temperature differences don't cause problems." Valira nodded. She moved to the far corner of the room and began arranging her sleeping area. Her movements were graceful and precise, like watching ice form in patterns. Teo backed out of the room quickly. "Lock it from the inside if you want privacy." "Good night." He closed the door before Valira could respond. His heart was beating fast. Having someone else in the house felt wrong. That room had been sealed for a reason. Now it was open again, occupied by a strange alien creature. Yuna patted his shoulder. Thank you, Teo. You're helping the colony, and who knows, maybe it will be good to have someone else around. For Hana's sake. After Yuna left, Teo found Hana still standing in the hallway, staring at the closed door. Bedtime, he said gently. Dad, what is she? Hana whispered. An alien. A person from another planet. She's called a Creosian. They live in cold places. She's pretty. Like ice sculptures, Teo felt surprise. He had thought the alien looked frightening, but his daughter saw beauty. Children saw the world so differently. Maybe. But stay away from her room, understand? She's only staying temporarily. Don't bother her. Hana nodded slowly, but Teo could see the curiosity in her eyes. He knew that look. His daughter's mother had the same expression when she wanted to understand something new. That night, Teo lay in bed, unable to sleep. He could hear faint sounds from the cold room. Strange musical notes like wind chimes made of ice. It must be how the alien communicated or moved. The sounds were actually beautiful in a haunting way. He thought about his wife, about how she had loved meeting new people and learning new things. She would have been excited to have an alien staying with them. She would have asked 1,000 questions and made Valera feel welcome. But Teo was not his wife. He was just a tired man trying to survive each day. He didn't have energy for strangers or complications. He just wanted to work, take care of his daughter, and keep the grief at arm's length. The ice song sounds continued through the wall. Eventually, they lulled him to sleep, and he dreamed of cold winds and crystal caves and a life that had ended 2 years ago in the rain. 3 weeks passed with barely any contact between Teo's family and their strange tenant. Valera emerged from her cold room only for necessary trips to the bathroom or to refill her water containers. When she did appear, the temperature in the hallway dropped noticeably. Frost formed on the walls near her. She moved quickly and silently like a ghost made of ice. Teo worked long hours as always. The colony's power systems kept failing, and he was one of only 3 engineers qualified to repair them. He left early each morning and returned late each night. Hana stayed with Dr. Jiwon, the colony doctor, during the day. Jiwon was kind and patient, but Teo knew his daughter needed more. She needed a parent who was present. One evening, Teo came home to find a piece of paper on the kitchen table. It was one of Hana's drawings. She had sketched their house with 3 stick figures. A tall one labeled Dad, a small one labeled Me, and a blue crystalline figure labeled Ice Lady. All 3 figures were holding hands and smiling. Teo's chest ached looking at it. His lonely daughter was so desperate for family that she was including a stranger who barely acknowledged their existence. Where did you put this? He asked Hana, who was coloring at the table. I slid it under her door. Hana said without looking up. 2 days ago. Hana, I told you not to bother her. I didn't bother her. I just gave her a picture. Mom always said pictures make people happy. Teo couldn't argue with that. His wife had believed art connected people across all barriers. He sighed and sat down heavily. Did she say anything? He asked. Hana shook her head. No, but I heard music after I left the picture. Pretty sounds. Like singing glass. Over the next few days, Hana continued her campaign. She left more drawings under Valera's door, pictures of stars and spaceships, drawings of the colony, a portrait of Valera that captured her crystalline beauty surprisingly well for a 6-year-old's work. Teo pretended not to notice, but he found himself curious too. What did the alien think of these offerings? Did her species even understand art? Meanwhile, Valera observed the household from her isolated room. Cryosians had excellent hearing and the walls were not thick. She heard everything. The father leaving early, his footsteps heavy with exhaustion. The child crying softly some nights. The doctor who came to collect Hana each morning, speaking in cheerful tones that barely masked her concern. This human household was broken, Valera understood. Just like she was broken. She had lost her mate 3 years ago in the territorial wars that plagued her homeworld. Then her 2 hatchlings had died in a bombing. She had nothing left except her trading ship and an empty life traveling between stations, never staying anywhere long enough to feel the pain. But the ship's damage was extensive. Repairs would take months, not weeks, and her savings were running low. She was trapped here in this warm, uncomfortable colony with these sad, warm-blooded creatures. The child's drawings confused her. Cryosians communicated through temperature changes and crystalline resonance. Visual art was not part of their culture. But somehow, looking at the simple sketches, Valera understood their meaning. The child was reaching out, asking for connection. It was foolish to respond. Valera would leave eventually. Getting attached to anyone was dangerous. She had learned that lesson in Blood and Fire. But the drawings kept coming, and the child's crying at night grew harder to ignore. One night, Teo was especially late. His communicator had died at the worksite and he couldn't call home. A repair job that should have taken 2 hours stretched to 6. By the time he trudged through the door, it was past midnight. The house was quiet. Teo checked Hana's room and found it empty. His heart jumped into his throat. "Hana?" he called, panic rising. He searched the house frantically. The kitchen, the bathroom, his own bedroom. Where was she? Then he heard it. A soft sound coming from the cold room. The door was slightly open, which never happened. Cold air flowed into the hallway. Teo rushed to the door and pushed it open. Inside he found Hana curled up on the floor, crying. And Valera was kneeling beside her, moving her crystalline hands in slow patterns. The air around them shimmered with cold, forming beautiful geometric shapes that glowed faintly blue. The patterns danced and flowed, accompanied by the alien's ice song. Hana had stopped crying and was watching the display with wide eyes, her tears frozen on her cheeks. Valera looked up as Teo entered. Those solid white eyes met his and he saw something unexpected there. Understanding. Compassion. "She was calling for you," Valera said softly. "Crying alone?" I could not ignore it. Teo felt shame wash over him. His daughter had been terrified and he hadn't been there. Again. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "My communicator died. I couldn't call." "I am not judging you," Valera replied. She gestured at the patterns still floating in the air. "On my world, we soothe distressed hatchlings with cooling patterns and resonant songs. It seems to work on human children, too." Hana looked at her father. "Dad, don't be mad at her." I came to her room. I was scared and I knocked on her door. She helped me. Teo knelt down and hugged his daughter, feeling her small body shake against his chest. "I'm not mad. I'm glad she was here." "Thank you, Valera." The alien stood, her movements graceful. "You are a good father, but you are also exhausted. I see it in how you move, how you breathe. You cannot be everything to your child alone." The words struck deep because they were true. Teo had been running himself into the ground and Hana was suffering for it. "I don't know what else to do," he admitted quietly. Her mother was the one who knew how to handle emotions and art and bedtime stories. "I just know how to fix machines." Valera tilted her head, studying him. "I lost my mate as well. And my hatchlings. I understand your grief." The air in the cold room suddenly felt heavier. Two broken adults, both drowning in loss, both trying to survive each day. "How do you handle it?" Teo asked. "Poorly," Valera said with something that might have been humor. "I run, I travel. I stay nowhere long enough to remember what I lost. But this is not handling it. This is only delaying." Hana had fallen asleep in Teo's arms, exhausted from crying. He stood carefully holding her. "I should let you rest," he said. "Thank you again. For helping her." As he turned to leave, Valera spoke again. "The child leaves me drawings. They are meaningful. Tell her I appreciate them." Teo looked back, surprised. "You can tell her yourself. At breakfast, maybe, if you want." Valera was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Perhaps I will." The next morning, when Hana came to the kitchen table, she found something waiting for her. It was a small sculpture made of ice, frozen so hard it wouldn't melt in the warm air for hours. The sculpture showed a human child and a crystalline figure holding hands, exactly like Hana's drawing. Hana gasped with delight. "Dad, look." She made me art back. Teo stared at the sculpture, amazed by its delicate beauty. A few minutes later, Valera emerged from her room, moving slowly to adjust to the warmer temperature. "Thank you for your drawings," she said to Hana. "On my world, we create with ice and cold. I thought you might like this." Hana bounced in her chair. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Can you teach me about your world, please?" Valera glanced at Teo, uncertain. He gave a small nod. "I suppose I could," Valera said. "I know many star mathematics and cold world science. Would that interest you?" "Yes," Hana exclaimed, and so began an unexpected friendship between a lonely human child and an alien widow who had forgotten how to connect with anyone. Dr. Jiwon noticed the change immediately when she picked up Hana later that week. The child was animated, talking excitedly about ice crystals and Cryosian ships and star maps. The sadness that had lived in her eyes for 2 years had begun to fade. What happened? Jiwon asked Teo quietly. We have a strange tenant, he replied, and somehow she's helping. That night, for the first time in years, Teo slept soundly. 2 months passed, and the household found a new rhythm. Valera still spent most of her time in her cold room, but now the door opened more frequently. She emerged for breakfast 3 times a week, moving carefully through the warm house to sit with Hana at the kitchen table. During these meals, she taught the child about the mathematics of star navigation and the science of crystal formation. Hana absorbed everything like a sponge. Her drawings became more complex, filled with mathematical formulas and star charts. She practiced making Cryosian ice songs by humming, though she couldn't create the true crystalline resonance. Teo found himself coming home earlier. Not every night, but more often. He wanted to see his daughter's face light up as she explained what Valera had taught her. He wanted to hear the strange, beautiful sounds of the aliens' ice songs drifting through the house. One evening he returned to find Hana asleep at the kitchen table, head resting on a half-finished drawing. Valera sat across from her, keeping watch. The alien looked up as Teo entered. She fought sleep for 2 hours, Valera said quietly, but eventually lost the battle. Teo smiled and carefully picked up his daughter. She was getting bigger. Soon he wouldn't be able to carry her like this anymore. The thought made his chest ache. After putting Hana to bed, he returned to find Valera still at the table. She hadn't retreated to her cold room yet. Can I make you something? Teo asked. I don't know what your people drink, but we have water, tea. Water is sufficient. Cold if possible. Teo poured ice water from the refrigerator and set it before her. Valera touched the glass, and frost immediately spread across its surface in intricate patterns. That's an impressive ability, Teo said, sitting down across from her. It is simply how we are. Your people generate heat. Mine generates cold. Both are survival adaptations. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Teo studied the alien more carefully than he had before. Her crystalline skin caught the kitchen light, breaking it into subtle rainbows. Her movements were precise and elegant. Despite her strange appearance, he no longer found her frightening. Just different. Can I ask you something personal? Teo said finally. Valera tilted her head. You may ask. I will choose whether to answer. What happened to your family? You mentioned losing them. The alien was quiet for so long that Teo thought she wouldn't respond. Then she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of old grief. There was a war. My people fight over resources and territory. Foolish conflicts that achieve nothing. A bomb destroyed the residential sector where my mate and hatchlings lived. I was off-world, trading. I returned to find nothing but frozen ruins. I'm so sorry, Teo said softly. Your mate? Valera asked. How did she die? Teo took a deep breath. He rarely talked about this. Mechanical failure in one of the colony's environmental processors. There was an explosion. She was working late, trying to fix it. 3 people died that day. She was one of them. And you blame yourself, it wasn't a question. Teo looked up, startled. How did you know? Because I blame myself as well. I asked the useless questions. What if I had been home? What if I had convinced them to leave the city? What if I had never become a traitor? Valera's white eyes seemed to glow brighter. Grief makes us ask impossible questions. Teo felt something break loose in his chest. For 2 years, he had carried the weight alone. No one understood. Dr. Jiwon tried. Other colonists sympathized, but none of them truly knew the crushing guilt of surviving when someone you loved didn't. But this alien understood. This strange crystalline being from a frozen world knew exactly what he felt. Does it ever get easier? He asked. No, Valera said honestly, but the questions become quieter. The pain becomes more familiar. You learn to carry it. They talked long into the night. Teo found himself sharing stories about his wife. Her laughter, her terrible cooking, her absolute conviction that art and science were 2 sides of the same coin. How she had wanted more children, but they'd decided to wait. How she used to sing Hana to sleep with old earth lullabies. Valera listened and shared her own stories. Her mate had been a crystal sculptor, creating magnificent works from ice and stone. Her hatchlings had been curious and bold, always exploring. She described Cryosian bonding rituals and the way her people expressed love through temperature harmonies. As Valera spoke, Teo realized something profound. Grief looked the same regardless of species. Love was love, loss was loss. The details changed, but the core emotions remained constant. "Your daughter reminds me of my youngest hatchling," Velera said eventually. "Curious, creative, unafraid of differences." "She's become attached to you," Teo replied. "I can see it, and I to her." "This is dangerous. Why?" Velera gestured at herself, at the frost spreading from her touch. "I am not meant to stay here. My ship repairs are nearly complete. In 2 weeks, perhaps 3, I will leave. Attachments only bring more pain." Teo felt unexpected disappointment. He had grown used to Velera's presence. The house felt less empty with her there. Hana was happier than she had been in years. "Where will you go?" he asked. "Away? Another station? Another contract? It does not matter where. That sounds lonely." "It is. But loneliness is safer than loss." Teo understood that philosophy. He had lived by it himself for 2 years. Work long hours, keep people at arm's length. Don't risk caring too much. But looking at his daughter's drawings on the refrigerator, seeing her happiness these past months, he wondered if safety was worth the cost. "My wife used to say that hiding from pain also means hiding from joy," he said quietly. "I didn't understand what she meant until now. I've been so afraid of being hurt again that I forgot how to be happy." Velera studied him with those glowing eyes. "Your mate was wise. Stay," Teo said suddenly. The word surprised even him. "Stay here. Not as a tenant, as, I don't know. A friend, family. Hana needs you, and I think maybe I do too." The alien's crystalline skin flickered with colors he didn't recognize. Some kind of emotional response, perhaps. "I cannot," she said finally. "My people do not integrate with warm species. It is not done. I would be an outcast. You're already traveling alone, already separated from your people. What difference does it make?" Velera paused. "I don't know." Before Teo could respond, a loud alarm blared through the house. Emergency sirens wailed across the colony. His communicator buzzed urgently. He grabbed it and read the message, his face going pale. "What is wrong?" Velera asked, standing quickly. "Storm warning. A massive ice storm is hitting the colony. Category 5, the biggest we've ever seen." He was already moving toward the door, grabbing his emergency gear. "I have to get to the engineering center. The power systems won't survive this without constant management." "How long will the storm last?" "Unknown. Could be hours or days." He stopped, looking back at her. "Hana is asleep. Can you?" "I will watch over her. Go." Teo hesitated only a second, then ran out into the growing wind. Through his door he could already see ice forming on the buildings across the street. The temperature was dropping fast. Velera moved to Hana's room and found the child stirring, awakened by the sirens. "What's happening?" Hana asked, rubbing her eyes. "A storm. Your father must work. I will stay with you. Are we safe?" Velera looked out the window at the ice spreading across everything like a frozen disease. This was her element. Cold and ice held no fear for her. But for these warm-blooded humans, this storm could be deadly. "Yes," she said, making the decision in that moment. "I will keep you safe. I promise." Outside, the storm hit with full force. Wind screamed through the colony. Ice formed on every surface. And in the engineering center, Teo and his team fought desperately to keep the power running, knowing that if they failed, hundreds of people would freeze to death in their beds. The battle against the cold had begun. The storm descended on New Haven Colony like a living thing made of ice and rage. Within an hour, the temperature had dropped 40 degrees. Power lines snapped under the weight of ice. Buildings groaned and creaked. Emergency shelters opened across the settlement, but many colonists couldn't reach them through the blinding snow and deadly wind. At the engineering center, Teo worked frantically alongside 2 other engineers. Screens showed power consumption spiking as every building cranked heating to maximum. The colony's main reactor was straining beyond safe limits. "We're losing grid sections," shouted Minho, the senior engineer. "Residential Zone 3 just went dark. Reroute power from the warehouse district," Teo ordered, his fingers flying over controls. "Those buildings are empty right now. Already did. It's not enough. The reactor can't handle this load in these temperatures." Teo stared at the screens in horror. If the reactor failed, the entire colony would go dark. In these temperatures, people would start dying within hours. Children and elderly first, then everyone else. His communicator buzzed. Messages flooded in. People reporting frozen pipes, failed heating units, buildings losing power. The colony's communication system was being overwhelmed. He tried to call home but got no signal. The storm was interfering with everything. Please let Hana be okay, he prayed. Please let Valera keep her warm. At Teo's house, Valera stood at the window watching the storm with awe. This was beautiful to her. The ice, the wind, the absolute cold. This was like being home. She could feel the temperature dropping and it made her stronger, more alert. But behind her, Hana shivered despite being wrapped in 3 blankets. I'm cold, the child said, her teeth chattering. Valera turned and saw the problem immediately. The house's heating system was struggling. Frost formed on the inside of the windows. The power was flickering. Then the lights went out. Hana gasped in the sudden darkness. Only the faint glow of Valera's crystalline skin provided any light. Do not fear, Valera said calmly. I can see perfectly in the dark. And I will not let you freeze. She gathered more blankets and wrapped Hana like a cocoon. But she could feel the child's body temperature dropping. Humans were so fragile, so dependent on artificial warmth. Without power, without heat, they died so easily. Valera made a decision. She couldn't just sit here waiting. Her people thrived in cold like this. She was uniquely suited to help. Hana, I must go out into the colony. People need help that only I can provide, but I will leave you with heat first. She went to her cold room and returned with several chemical heating packs designed for emergency use. She activated them all and packed them around Hana's blanket cocoon. These will keep you warm for many hours. Stay here. Do not leave the house. I will return with your father. You're going out in the storm? Hana asked, eyes wide. This storm is nothing to me. For you, it is deadly. For me, it is merely weather. Valera touched the child's face gently, her cold fingers somehow comforting. Trust me, I have survived worse. Valera stepped out into the storm and breathed deeply. The cold invigorated her. Ice crystals formed in the air around her, responding to her presence. She could navigate this storm as easily as humans walked through a sunny day. She ran toward the emergency shelter nearest Teo's house. People would need help. She could provide it. The shelter was packed with colonists, but the building's heating had failed. People huddled together, sharing body heat. Children cried. The elderly looked frighteningly still. Valera entered, and everyone turned to stare at the alien covered in ice and snow. Who's in charge? She demanded. A man stepped forward, his lips blue with cold. I am. Daishim Shelter Coordinator. Who are you? I am Valera. I live in cold. This temperature is nothing to me. Tell me what you need. Daishim's eyes widened with understanding. The heating system failed. We have elderly and children going hypothermic. Can you help? Valera assessed the situation quickly. I cannot generate heat, but I can manipulate cold. I can create thermal barriers to trap what warmth you have. I can also show you which people need the most attention based on their temperature signatures. Please, anything you can do. Valera moved through the shelter, using her abilities to identify who was in the most danger. Her crystalline skin could sense minute temperature differences. She directed the healthiest colonists to share warmth with the coldest. She used her powers to create walls of super-dense cold air around the shelter's exterior, forming an insulating barrier that trapped the body heat of the people inside. It wasn't perfect, but it helped. People stopped shaking quite so badly. The dangerous chill in the air eased slightly. The children, Daishim said, pointing to a corner where a dozen kids huddled together. They're struggling the most. Valera went to them and did something that would have horrified other Creosians. She sat among the human children and used her body to create a controlled cold zone around them. By making the immediate area even colder, she forced their bodies to generate more heat in response. Then she carefully modulated the temperature, finding the exact balance where their bodies could maintain warmth most efficiently. It was exhausting and required intense concentration, but it worked. The children's color improved. How long can you maintain this? Daishim asked. As long as necessary. My kind does not tire from cold. Word spread quickly through the emergency communication network that still functioned. An alien at Shelter 7 was saving lives. Other shelters started calling, begging for help. Valera organized the rescue efforts with military precision. She identified colonists who could brave the storm with proper gear. She taught them how to move through the ice and wind. She led rescue teams to stranded families, using her ability to sense heat signatures to locate people trapped in buildings. She carried frozen elderly to shelters on her back, their weight nothing to her enhanced strength. She created ice bridges over dangerous gaps. She used her crystalline resonance to communicate across distances, coordinating rescue teams when radios failed. At the engineering center, Minho suddenly pointed at a screen. Teo, look at this. Someone's creating thermal patterns across the residential zones. It's helping distribute heat more efficiently. Who's doing this? Teo looked at the data and felt his heart skip. The patterns were crystalline and mathematical, beautiful and precise. Valera, he whispered. He pulled up security camera feeds that still functioned. There, moving through the storm like a spirit of ice, was the alien. She ran from building to building, shelter to shelter, coordinating with colonists, saving lives. She's magnificent, Minho breathed. Teo felt pride swell in his chest. This strange being who lived in his house, who taught his daughter mathematics and made sculptures from ice, was out there risking everything to save people she barely knew. For 6 hours, the storm raged. For 6 hours, Valera worked without rest. She pulled people from collapsed buildings. She created emergency shelters from ice when conventional ones were unreachable. She taught colonists her ice song so they could call to each other through the howling wind. And slowly, working together with humans who had learned to trust her, she kept the colony alive. When the storm finally broke at dawn, Teo ran from the engineering center toward the nearest shelter where Valera had last been reported. He found her there, surrounded by grateful colonists. Children clung to her legs. Adults thanked her in tearful voices. She looked up as Teo entered, and their eyes met across the room. Hana? She asked immediately. I'm going there now. Come with me. They ran through the ice-covered streets together. The colony was damaged but intact. No deaths had been reported. In a storm that should have killed dozens, everyone had survived. At the house, they found Hana still wrapped in blankets, sleeping peacefully with the chemical heaters keeping her warm. Teo pulled the alien into a sudden embrace, not caring about the cold that radiated from her. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Valera stood stiffly, unused to physical affection, but slowly, carefully she returned the embrace. Your people are stronger than I expected. They adapted quickly. They learned to work with the cold instead of only fighting it. This is why your species survives everywhere you go. We had a good teacher. By afternoon, the colony's communication systems were back online. Yuna called a meeting at the administrative center. Every colonist who could walk attended. She stood before them, and beside her stood Valera, still covered in frost and ice. This alien saved our colony, Yuna announced. Without her, we would have lost many lives. I propose we grant her permanent citizenship and offer her a position as our climate specialist. All in favor? Every hand in the room went up. The vote was unanimous, but when Yuna turned to Valera with the official offer, the alien's white eyes had lost their glow. I cannot accept, Valera said quietly. The storm depleted my resources. I spent my entire savings on emergency medical supplies for your people. I can no longer afford my ship repairs. The room went silent. I am stranded here, Valera continued. And now I cannot even pay rent to Teo. I have nothing left to offer. Teo stepped forward from the crowd. Then stay anyway. Not as a tenant, as family. We'll figure out everything else together. Hana pushed through the crowd and grabbed Valera's hand. Please stay, please. Valera looked at them both. At this human man and his child who had somehow become important to her. At the colony of people who had worked alongside Dr. Jiwan caught Valera before she hit the floor. The alien was unconscious, her crystalline skin flickering weakly. The usual glow had faded to almost nothing. Get her to my clinic now, Jiwan ordered. Teo and 2 other colonists carefully lifted Valera. Even in her depleted state, she was remarkably light. They rushed through the ice-covered streets to the medical center. In the examination room, Jiwan worked quickly, consulting every database she could access about Creation physiology. The problem became clear quickly. She's suffering from heat exhaustion, Jiwan explained to Teo, who paced anxiously nearby. Creations need to maintain extremely low body temperatures. During the storm, she was constantly exposed to human body heat while helping people. 6 straight hours of it. For her, it's like a human spending hours in a furnace. Will she be okay? Hana asked, her small hand gripping her father's tightly. I think so. I've put her in a cryo chamber set to near absolute zero. She needs to cool down and rest, but it could take days or even weeks for her to fully recover. Teo sank into a chair, relief and worry mixing in his chest. She saved everyone. Nearly killed herself doing it. That's what heroes do, Ji-won said gently. She looked at Hana. Your Ice Lady is very brave. Over the next 3 days, Valera remained unconscious in the cryo chamber. The colony rallied around her. People brought offerings, human style. They left notes of thanks, small gifts, frozen flowers from the greenhouses. Nobody quite knew what would mean something to a Cryosian, but they tried. Teo and Hana visited every day. Hana drew pictures and pressed them against the cryo chamber's viewing window. She talked to Valera even though the alien couldn't hear her, telling her about everything happening in the colony. Yuna came by on the second day with documents. I've spoken with the colony council. We want to help repair her ship, but our resources are limited. The storm damage to our own infrastructure is extensive. How much does she need? Teo asked. About 30,000 credits for parts and labor. We can contribute 10,000 from the emergency fund. But the rest? Yuna shrugged helplessly. Teo thought about his own savings. Maybe 5,000 credits. Nowhere near enough. What if she doesn't want to repair the ship? He asked quietly. What if she wants to stay? Yuna studied him carefully. Would that make you happy? Yes, I think it would. Then we offer her the climate specialist position with a signing bonus. Enough to cover what she spent saving us. We give her a real reason to stay beyond obligation. On the 4th day, Valira's eyes flickered open. The first thing she saw through the cryo chamber window was Hana's face pressed against the glass, fogging it with her breath. Dr. Ji-won opened the chamber slowly, letting warmer air mix gradually. Valera sat up, her movements weak but steady. How long? She asked, her voice rough. 4 days, Ji-won replied. You nearly died. Heat exhaustion and resource depletion. Your body completely shut down. Valera absorbed this information with her usual calm. And the colony? Everyone survived. 0 casualties. Because of you. Hana launched herself at Valera, hugging the alien tightly despite the cold radiating from her. You scared me. Don't do that again. Valera's crystalline hands touched the child's hair gently. I am sorry. I did not mean to frighten you. Teo entered the room, relief flooding his face. You're awake. So it seems. Valera looked at him, then at Hana, then at Dr. Ji-won. Why do you all look so worried? I am functional. I will recover fully. We're worried because we care about you, Teo said simply. You're not just a tenant anymore. You're family. The word hung in the air. Family. Valera processed it slowly. Her own family was dead. The concept of building a new one, especially with aliens, was foreign to Cryosian culture. Her people didn't form bonds across species. It simply wasn't done. But then her people also didn't risk their lives to save warm-blooded strangers. Her people didn't teach alien children or make ice sculptures as gifts. She had already broken so many of her culture's rules. What was one more? I have decided something, Valera said. I do not wish to repair my ship. I wish to stay here. If the colony will have me, Hana squealed with joy. Teo's face broke into the widest smile he'd worn in years. The position is yours, Ji-won said. Climate specialist with a salary that will let you live comfortably. And there's a signing bonus to replace what you spent on medical supplies during the storm. I do not need charity, Valera said stiffly. It's not charity. It's payment for services rendered. You saved the colony. We're compensating you. Valera considered this. In Cryosian culture, debts and payments were serious matters. If this was framed as compensation rather than charity, she could accept with honor. Very well. I accept the position. The news spread through the colony like wildfire. The alien who saved them was staying. There was celebration in the streets despite the ongoing cleanup from the storm. But that night, alone in the house with Teo and Hana, Valera felt uncertainty creeping in. Accepting the job was easy. But what came next? How did one build a life in a place so different from home? How did she navigate this strange family structure with humans who had such different needs and customs? Teo found her standing at the kitchen window looking out at the ice-covered colony. Having second thoughts? He asked gently. Many thoughts. I am uncertain of their order. She turned to face him. My people do not do this. We do not integrate with other species. We maintain distance isolation. What I am doing is unprecedented. Does that make it wrong? No, but it makes it frightening. Teo moved to stand beside her. I'm frightened too. I haven't let anyone close since my wife died. The idea of caring about someone again, of building something new, it terrifies me. But I'm more afraid of going back to how things were. Lonely, empty, just going through the motions. Your daughter changed both of us, Valera observed. Her drawings under my door. Her innocent trust. She refused to accept my isolation. She has her mother's gift for connecting people. Teo smiled sadly. My wife would have liked you, I think. She always said the universe was full of wonders if you were brave enough to see them. She sounds wise. She was, and she taught me that family isn't about biology or tradition. It's about choosing to show up for each other day after day, even when it's hard. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the moonlight reflect off the ice-covered buildings. After a while, Valera spoke again. There is something I must tell you. On my world, when one decides to join a new family group, there is a ritual. The binding of frost. It is a promise to protect and provide, to share resources and face dangers together. What does it involve? Each member of the family creates an ice sculpture representing themselves. Then they merge the sculptures into one piece, symbolizing unity while maintaining individual identity. It is intimate, sacred. Teo understood the weight of what she was saying. You want to perform this ritual? With us, I do. If you would accept it. Though I understand your people have different traditions. We have marriage ceremonies, adoption rituals, various other bonds. But what matters isn't the specific tradition. It's the commitment behind it. He met her glowing eyes. I would be honored to do your binding of frost ritual. As would Hana. The next day they prepared for the ceremony. Valera created 3 ice sculptures in her cold room. One represented herself, all sharp angles and crystalline beauty. The second showed Teo, solid and dependable. The third captured Hana's joyful energy in frozen form. That evening, with Dr. Jiwan serving as witness, they performed the binding of frost in the backyard. Valera sang the ancient ice songs of her people, while carefully merging the 3 sculptures into one. The final piece showed 3 figures intertwined, supporting each other, yet each maintaining their distinct form. Hana watched with wonder. Teo felt tears freezing on his cheeks. When the sculpture was complete, Valera spoke the ritual words in her own language, then translated. By ice and bond, by choice and will, we become family. Not of blood, but of purpose. We stand together against the cold dark of the universe. This I pledge. This we pledge, Teo repeated, and Hana echoed him. The sculpture would remain in their backyard, a permanent reminder of the family they had chosen to become. That night, as Hana slept peacefully in her bed and Valera worked in her cold room, Teo sat at the kitchen table and felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 years. Hope. The future didn't look empty anymore. It looked full of possibility, but that future would be tested sooner than any of them expected. The next morning, Hana woke up with a fever. At first, it seemed like a simple cold. Hana was tired and warm to the touch. Teo gave her medicine and kept her home from her lessons. Children got sick. It was normal, but by the second day, the fever had spiked higher. Hana couldn't keep food down. She drifted in and out of sleep, murmuring confused words. Dr. Jiwon came to the house and ran tests. Her face grew serious as she reviewed the results. It's not a cold, she said quietly, pulling Teo aside. It's Corvash fever, a rare disease that occasionally appears in frontier colonies. The bacteria lives dormant in ice and activates under specific conditions. Teo felt his blood run cold. Can you treat it? In adults, yes. The human immune system can fight it with the right antibiotics. But in children, Jiwon's voice trailed off. The bacteria multiplies too fast. By the time the immune system responds, it's too late. The fever burns out of control. No. Teo shook his head. No, there has to be something. Some treatment. I'm giving her everything I have. Every protocol I know. But Teo, you need to prepare yourself. The survival rate in children is less than 20%. Teo stumbled back as if struck. Not Hana, not his little girl. He had already lost his wife. He couldn't lose his daughter, too. The universe couldn't be that cruel. Valera emerged from her cold room, sensing the distress in the household. What has happened? Hana is very sick, Jiwon explained. A disease called Corvash fever. It's bacterial, activated by exposure to certain types of ice during the recent storm. Valera's crystalline skin flickered with colors. Corvash. I know this bacteria. It originates from cold world environments like my home planet. You know it? Ji-won looked up sharply. Have your people found a treatment? Yes, Cryosians are immune to Corvash. It cannot survive in our low body temperatures. When our young occasionally contract it from off-world contact, we use cryogenic therapy. We lower their body temperature to near freezing for several days, starving the bacteria while keeping the patient in suspended animation. Ji-won shook her head immediately. That won't work for humans. Our cells don't survive freezing. Ice crystals form in the tissues and cause massive damage. Hana would die. Not if done correctly, Valera insisted. The technique requires precise temperature control and the introduction of natural antifreeze compounds. On my world, we use this method on warm-blooded animals sometimes. It is dangerous but possible. Sometimes. Teo seized on the word. What's the success rate? Valera was silent for a long moment. Perhaps 50%. If performed by an expert. I have never done this procedure. I only observed it once many years ago. The room fell into heavy silence. A 50% chance. Better than 20%, but still a coin flip. His daughter's life balanced on a knife's edge. What happens if we do nothing? Teo asked quietly. She dies, Ji-won said bluntly. Within 3 days, maybe 4. The fever will destroy her organs. There's no other human treatment that works fast enough. Teo went to Hana's room. His daughter lay in bed, her skin flushed and hot. She opened her eyes as he sat beside her. Dad? She whispered. I don't feel good. I know, sweetheart. I know. He took her small hand in his, feeling how hot it was. We're going to help you. I promise. Is Valera here? Yes, she's here. Good. I want her to stay. Hana's eyes drifted closed again. Don't let her leave. Teo's heart broke. Even sick, even scared, his daughter thought about others. She was so much like her mother. He found Valera in the kitchen, her crystalline body absolutely still. It was how Cryosians looked when processing difficult information. Tell me exactly what the procedure involves, he said. Valera turned to face him. I would need to prepare a solution of organic antifreeze compounds. Then I would gradually lower Hana's body temperature over several hours, allowing the compounds to circulate through her system. Once she reaches the optimal temperature, I maintain it for 3 to 4 days while the bacteria dies. Then I must bring her temperature back up, very slowly and carefully. Any mistake could kill her. What kind of mistakes? Cooling too fast creates ice crystals that destroy cells. Cooling too slow allows the bacteria to continue multiplying. The wrong concentration of antifreeze is toxic. The temperature must be monitored constantly. And I would need to use my own body to regulate her temperature, which means staying in physical contact with her for days. Why is that a problem? Valera's white eyes seemed to dim. Because I cannot lose another child. If Hana dies while I hold her, if I feel her life fade away in my arms, I do not know if I can survive it. I have already buried my own hatchlings. I cannot do it again. Teo understood then. This wasn't just about the technical difficulty. Valera was terrified. I'm scared too, he admitted. I'm more scared than I've ever been. But you're the only hope she has. I'm asking you to do this. I'm asking you to be her mother in the way that matters most. If I fail, then we fail together. But if we don't try, she dies for certain. Please, Valera, please save my daughter. The alien stood motionless for what felt like forever. Then slowly she nodded. I will try. I cannot promise success, but I will give everything I have. Dr. Ji-won helped them prepare. They converted Valera's cold room into a medical suite. Ji-won would monitor Hana's vital signs while Valera performed the temperature control. They had to work fast. The fever was getting worse by the hour. Valera prepared the antifreeze solution using compounds from her own biological stores and materials from Ji-won's medical supplies. It was greenish and thick, looking nothing like any medicine Teo had seen. They carried Hana to the cold room. She was barely conscious now, the fever consuming her. This is going to feel very strange, Valera told the child gently. You will become very cold and very tired. But I will be with you the whole time. Do you trust me? Hana managed a weak nod. You're my ice mom now. I trust you. Valera's crystalline skin flickered with emotion. She carefully injected the antifreeze solution and waited for it to circulate. Then she gathered Hana into her arms and began to sing her ice song. The temperature in the room dropped rapidly. Frost formed on every surface. Teo watched through the observation window, his breath fogging the glass. Ji-won monitored the readouts. Hana's core temperature is dropping. "95 degrees 90, 85. Is that safe?" Teo asked, his voice shaking. "For the procedure, yes. For normal circumstances, absolutely not." Through the window, he could see Valira holding his daughter, her body wrapped around Hana's smaller form. The alien's skin glowed steadily as she regulated the temperature with precise control. Her ice songs filled the room, haunting and beautiful. Hours passed. Hana's temperature dropped to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, far below what any human should survive. But the anti-freeze compounds kept ice crystals from forming. Her body entered a state of suspended animation. Her heartbeat slowed to almost nothing. "The bacteria is beginning to die," Jiwan reported. "The cold is working." But now came the hard part. Days of maintaining the exact temperature. Days of waiting and hoping. Valira did not move from her position. She held Hana like a precious crystal, her entire being focused on keeping the child alive. She sang constantly, the ice songs helping her maintain concentration. Teo stayed in the room outside the cold chamber, watching through the window. He barely ate or slept. He just watched his daughter suspended between life and death, held by an alien who had become family. On the second day, Hana's vital signs fluctuated dangerously. The stress on her body was immense. Her heart rate is irregular, Jiwan warned. "She's struggling." Valira's glow intensified. She adjusted the temperature microscopically, finding the exact balance. Her ice songs grew more complex, layering harmonics in ways Teo had never heard. "She's stabilizing," Jiwan said with relief. "Whatever Valira is doing, it's working." On the third day, Teo spoke through the intercom. "How are you holding up?" Valira's voice came back thin and strained. "I am functional. Maintaining temperature control requires constant focus. I cannot rest, but I will not fail her. You need to take care of yourself too. I am not important. Only Hana matters." Teo felt his throat tighten. This alien, this being from a cold world who had lost everything, was pouring all of her remaining will into saving a human child. It was the most selfless act he had ever witnessed. On the fourth day, Jiwan confirmed that the bacteria had been eliminated. "It's time to begin warming her up." This was the most dangerous phase. If Hana warmed too quickly, her body would go into shock. Too slowly, and other complications could arise. Everything depended on Valira's control. The alien began raising the temperature fraction by fraction. Her own body temperature increased to provide warmth. For a Creotian, this was torture. Heat was pain, but Valira endured it without complaint. Hours crawled by. Hana's temperature climbed slowly. 70 degrees, 80, 90. "Come on, baby," Teo whispered against the glass. "Come back to us." At 98 degrees, Hana's eyes fluttered open. She looked up at Valira's glowing face. "Mom," she whispered, the words slipping out naturally. "I am here," Valira said, her voice breaking with emotion. "You are safe. I had the strangest dream. I was made of ice and stars. Rest now. You are going to be fine." Jiwan ran tests and then burst into tears of relief. "She's okay. No organ damage, no side effects." It worked. It actually worked. Teo rushed into the cold room, ignoring the freezing air. He wrapped his arms around Valira, had pushed herself beyond all limits. 4 days of constant temperature control while fighting her natural aversion to heat had depleted her completely. Her crystalline structure was damaged, cracks spreading through her skin like broken glass. Her core temperature had risen dangerously high for a Creosian. Dr. Jiwan worked frantically, pumping supercooled fluids into Valira's system while keeping her in the cryo chamber. But unlike with heat exhaustion before, this time the damage was more severe. The alien had literally burned herself out from the inside to save Hana. "Will she be okay?" Hana asked from her hospital bed. She was recovering quickly now that the fever was gone, but she refused to leave until she knew Valira would survive. "I don't know," Jiwan admitted. "I'm doing everything I can, but Valira's biology is beyond my full understanding. She needs rest and time. If her species can heal from this kind of damage, she will. But we have to wait." Teo set up a vigil beside the cryo chamber just as he had done weeks ago, but this time Hana sat with him. The little girl pressed her hands against the viewing window. "Mom," she whispered. "Please wake up, please." Teo noticed she had called Valira Mom again. It wasn't an accident or fever dream. It was real. "When did you start thinking of her as your mother?" he asked gently. Hana looked at him with serious eyes. "When she sang to me in the ice. When she held me and kept me safe even though it hurt her. That's what moms do, right?" They protect you even when it's hard. Yes, Teo said, his voice thick. That's exactly what they do. Word spread through the colony about what had happened. Valera had saved the colony during the storm. Now she had saved Teo's daughter at great personal cost. The colonists rallied once again. They brought offerings to the medical center. More frozen flowers, containers of super cold materials that might help, notes written in careful human handwriting, expressing gratitude and hope. Someone even tried to compose an ice song, though the human version was clumsy and off-key. Una visited with more practical help. The colony council voted, "We're establishing a Creosian environmental research station here, a proper facility with cold labs and equipment designed for her species. It will take time to build, but we want Valera to know she has a place here, a real place. Not just as a tenant or even as an employee, but as one of us. She'll appreciate that," Teo said, "if she wakes up." "When she wakes up," Una corrected firmly. "She's too stubborn to die. You should know that by now." Days passed slowly. Hana returned home but visited the medical center every day after her lessons. She brought drawings and pressed them against the cryo chamber. She talked to Valera, telling her about what she was learning, about the ice sculpture in their backyard that still stood perfect and beautiful. "Dr. Jiwan says you can hear me even when you're sleeping," Hana said during one visit. "So I'm going to tell you about my day. Today I learned about thermal dynamics. That's the study of heat and cold, right? You'd like it. There's so much math involved. You always said the universe speaks in mathematics." Teo listened to his daughter's one-sided conversations and felt his heart ache. When had they become so dependent on this alien? When had she become so essential to their happiness? He knew the answer. It had been gradual, like ice forming on a window. One small moment at a time, one drawing under a door, one ice sculpture, one lesson, one storm survived together, one life saved. On the 7th day, Valera's crystalline skin began to glow again very faintly. Dr. Jiwan called Tayo and Hana immediately. "Her vital signs are improving. I think she's coming back." They rushed to the medical center. Through the viewing window, they could see Valera's white eyes flickering open. Jiwan carefully opened the cryo chamber. Valera sat up slowly, her movements stiff and careful. The cracks in her skin were still visible but had begun to seal. "How long?" she asked, her voice weak. 7 days, Jiwan replied. "You gave us quite a scare." Valera looked around and found Hana's face pressed against the window. The child was crying with relief. "The young one survived," Valera stated. "Thanks to you," Teo said, entering the room despite the cold. "You saved her. You saved my daughter. I made a promise. I do not break promises." Valera tried to stand but swayed dangerously. "Easy," Jiwan warned. "You need more time to recover. You pushed yourself to the absolute limit. Another hour of that procedure and you would have died. But I did not die, and neither did Hana. This is what matters." Over the next few days, Valera's strength slowly returned. The cracks in her skin sealed completely, leaving faint patterns like old scars. She told Jiwan that Creosians did not scar normally, but extreme damage could leave permanent marks. "I will carry evidence of this on my skin forever," Valera said. "Looking at the patterns, are you upset about that?" Jiwan asked. Valtira considered the question. "No. On my world, such marks indicate a life lived with purpose. They are not shameful. If anything, I am proud I saved a life. I protected my family. These marks prove it." When Valira was finally cleared to go home, the entire colony turned out to watch. It wasn't planned, but word had spread. People lined the streets from the medical center to Teo's house. They didn't cheer or make noise. They simply stood in respectful silence, acknowledging her sacrifice. Hana held Valera's hand on one side, Teo on the other. They walked home together through the quiet tribute. At the house, Valera stopped to look at the ice sculpture in the backyard. The binding of frost sculpture still stood perfect. 3 figures joined as one family. "I was afraid I would never see this again," she admitted quietly. "We were afraid of the same thing," Teo replied. That evening, they sat together at the kitchen table. Hana had made dinner with Dr. Jiwan's help earlier. It was simple food, but made with love. Valera didn't eat human food, but she sat with them anyway, drinking super cold water and watching them with her glowing eyes. "I have made a decision," Valera announced. "I am selling my ship. I have no need for it anymore. This is my home now. You are my family. I will not leave. Hana jumped up and hugged her. Really? You're staying forever? Forever is a long time, but yes. For as long as you will have me. Always, Hana said firmly. You're my mom now. Moms don't leave. Valera's crystalline skin flickered with colors that Teo had learned meant complex emotions. Joy, fear, love, hope. On my world, Valera said slowly. We have a saying. Ice forms in silence, but avalanches announce themselves. I came here silently, expecting to leave the same way. But somehow I created an avalanche. I changed everything. You changed us too, Teo said. For the better. Over the following weeks, life found a new rhythm. Valera began her work as the colony's climate specialist, helping design better cold weather systems and protocols. She taught classes on thermodynamics and ice world science. Human children and adults alike attended her lectures, fascinated by her unique perspective. The colony built her laboratory with both warm and cold sections, allowing her to work comfortably while collaborating with human scientists. It became a symbol of what could be achieved when different species worked together. Hana flourished under Valera's guidance. The child showed remarkable aptitude for science and mathematics. But more importantly, the sadness that had haunted her eyes for 2 years was gone. She laughed easily now. She made friends. She was happy. Teo found himself changing too. He started coming home earlier. He spent evenings with his family watching Valera teach Hana while dinner cooked. They would sit together afterward, talking about their days, making plans for the future. One evening, 6 months after Valera had decided to stay, Teo found her standing at the kitchen window again. It had become her favorite spot when she needed to think. What's on your mind? He asked, bringing her a glass of ice water. I am thinking about how much has changed. How much I have changed. If you had told me a year ago that I would be living with humans, teaching human children, considering myself part of a human family, I would have said it was impossible. But here you are. Here I am. She turned to look at him. I need to tell you something. In Cryosian culture, we have different types of family bonds. There is the birth bond with biological family, the frost bond with chosen family, which we performed, and then there is the star bond. What's a star bond? It is a partnership bond between two adults. What your people would call marriage, though not quite the same. It is a promise to face the universe together as equals, to build a life and future side by side. Teo's heart began beating faster. Why are you telling me this? Valera's white eyes met his directly. Because I have developed feelings that go beyond the frost bond. I care for you, Teo, not just as family but as a partner. I do not know if such a thing is possible between our species. I do not know if you feel the same. But I needed to speak truth. Teo set down his glass carefully. He had been aware of his growing feelings for weeks but had been afraid to acknowledge them.
He had loved his first wife deeply.
Opening his heart again felt like betraying her memory. But then he remembered something she had said once long ago. Love isn't a finite resource. Having more doesn't diminish what came before. It just means your heart is big enough to hold it all. I care for you too, he said quietly.